Have you ever wondered if you astral travel or what astral travel even is? This topic is so popular with my students that take four intuitive languages. I wanted to do a podcast episode about it. Does everyone astral travel? Which spirit guides help me with it? What's the purpose of it? Is it safe? How do I know I've been on one? I'm going to answer all these questions inside this episode, so stay tuned. Welcome to Spiritual and Ambitious. I'm your host, Whitney McNeil. I'm a certified medium and spiritual teacher, and I help spiritual and ambitious souls just like you live your life purpose through your career and attract abundance by connecting into your intuition and spirit guides. Let's get spiritual and ambitious. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual and Ambitious podcast. I'm your host, Whitney McNeil. Today, we're going to be diving into astral travel. But before we get there, I want to invite you to subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode. So if it's your favorite podcast listening app, YouTube, wherever, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And of course, I'd love to hear from you over on Instagram. You can find me at Messenger of Spirit. And you know that I'd love to see a 5-star review come out if you love these episodes. Okay, so astral travel, what the heck is it? Astral travel is, are you sitting down for this? Your spirit leaves your body, but it's okay. You're just visiting the astral plane. Now, I want to explain this. You are in a physical being, like in a vessel, in a body. You also have an emotional body, a mental body, and a spiritual body. Those emotional bodies and the spiritual bodies and the mental bodies, they live in this plane and in a different plane, depending on what we're really diving into. So what I'm trying to tell you right now is that you're actually living in the spiritual plane and you live in the physical plane at the same time. And understanding that, if you can understand that you're a spirit in the body, then you can get the concept of I'm a spirit. So if I'm a spirit, I should be able to talk to spirit. If I'm in a body, I should also be able to talk to people here on the earth plane. So once we start thinking, wait a minute, I'm spirit, it makes it easier to understand that we actually can go on travels and learn in the spirit world. So astral travel is when you are taking a visit to talk to people in the spiritual world. And it is more of an experience versus mediumship or intuitive development. So with your intuition, you're communicating with your spirit guides or loved ones, hopefully through your spirit guides. With mediumship, you're communicating with loved ones, hopefully through your spirit guides, or you're just talking to your spirit guides and delivering messages to other people. That's really what makes that mediumship. And then astral travel is your spirit leaving the body, still attached. So you're not just, completely gone. And you're talking to other spirits. So why would we do this? Right? That's probably what you're wondering. Well, we do this because we learn on so many different levels. We have spirit guides, and one of our spirit guides is a teacher guide. That teacher guide will help lead us to teachers here on the earth plane, probably led you to this podcast, but also will help teach you lessons in the astral plane. What's really cool, I remember this, I used to teach in-person classes, and at some point my schedule was very busy. And what I did is say, all right, spirit, I've created the curriculum, but I haven't really kind of had time to sit with it. So I hope that this is really coming in from you. And I was just having that conversation with him. What happened is I went into the astral plane and taught the class. So I got the experience. I really started to practice the curriculum, making sure I was familiar with it and like the words and the way it was flowing. I'm of course familiar with the topic, but you know what I'm talking about. It's like, all right, how many minutes am I spending on this topic and so forth. And then I came back into my body. And what was interesting is when I went to class, I had other students that said, did we go on an astral travel? I had this dream that we already had this class. So you can actually astral travel with other people too. But most of the time we astral travel with our spirit guides, and our spirit guides will introduce us to other people in the astral plane, or we go through an experience that we need. So in that example, I was really experiencing what I needed so that I felt more confident when I was getting ready to teach the class. But you can meet other people. And here's a really cool example of that. So I was getting ready to teach a Reiki 1 class, a private Reiki 1 class years ago. And I was very familiar with the topic. But in my astral visit, I met my Reiki teacher. So it was my Reiki sensei. And he said, "You are going to teach a student. I'm going to help facilitate that." So I saw the woman come in. She had dark skin, dark eyes, dark hair, beautiful. And I was getting ready to teach her. Well, I woke up, went along with my day, went to my Reiki class, and the man that I was teaching brought his wife. And his wife said, "I'm supposed to take this class with you. My teacher told me." Now, because I have boundaries, and I believe everybody should, normally I would say, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared for this. There's no more material here." But because I had that astral visit and she had that astral visit too, I said, "Absolutely, you're supposed to be here." So you can meet other people. And sometimes we feel like it's a past life, like, "Oh, maybe we had a past life together." And it's possible. But most of the time, it's because your spirit guides are orchestrating an event to meet someone so that when you do meet them in the earth plane, you go, "Ooh, I'm supposed to listen to you. Ooh, I'm supposed to connect with you." And sometimes it's "Ooh, I'm not supposed to talk to you." But most of the time it is a lesson of synchronicity, almost like, "Oh, I feel like we have this connection." So there's so many wonderful things that can happen from it. And one of the best reasons is to learn lessons, to gain experience, and to meet people. So you can learn lessons as well. And when you're learning lessons, this could be something that you're trying to work out on the earth plane, and it could be easier to do in the astral plane. So you might have an experience that you're going through, or perhaps you're grieving a loss and you're not quite getting it all out on the earth plane. And so this could be something that happens in the astral plane. Whatever it is, your vibration raises, you grow because you're saying yes to new opportunities and you're learning new things. So that's why we want to do astral travel. And that's really part of the purpose. The purpose of astral travel is to grow and to learn. So after we come back from this really quick break, let's talk a little bit more about how you know you've been on one and how you do it. Is it safe? And all those questions. So hang in with me. I'll be right back. As a professional psychic medium, I've done tens of thousands of readings, but I felt a call to move more fully into teaching intuition. But I still get so many requests about doing readings. So while I don't do readings anymore, I have brought in some very trusted colleagues who are now available for live 1-hour readings on Zoom. If you would like to book your psychic medium reading, go to messengerofspirit.com/appointments to see our available readers and schedule your Zoom reading today. Thanks for hanging in there. Today we're talking about astral travel on the Spiritual and Ambitious podcast, and we've already covered what astral travel is. Does everybody go on it? Well, let me answer that for you. Yes, everybody goes on it. And you might say, "Whitney, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you're telling me right here." So there's voluntary astral travel and involuntary, and there's conscious and unconscious. So voluntary astral travel is asking to go on astral travel. So before you go to bed, you could say, "I really want to go on an astral travel." Or you could intend to go on an astral travel even when you're not sleeping. Conscious, unconscious. The most common ways that we go on astral travel are unconsciously when we are sleeping. So we are not necessarily intending to go on the astral travel, but we could still intend before we go to sleep, and we're still unconscious when we go into the astral travel world. So there can be voluntary of an intention to go, or involuntary where your spirit guides say, "Ooh, the conditions are right and we're ready to help you learn XYZ lesson. Let's go." The conscious, unconscious is when you're sleeping. Conscious is when you are wanting to be in a very relaxed state. and you are intending to go, but it can also be when you're not intending to go. So let me break that down for you. I've been on both, where I've been in a spirit circle and I have been in a relaxed meditative state where I'm intending to leave my body in an astral travel. And that would be a conscious and voluntary. I've also been in a conscious, involuntary astral travel where I used to work for somebody about 12 hours a day. And I used to do internet stuff like website, marketing, internet, that kind of thing. I was in an office by myself and I was bored out of my mind. And I could not wait to quit that job and just go full time in my business. So I kept asking my spirit guides over and over, like, hey, kind of forced my hand here. I'm ready to make the move. And anyway, one day my door was closed and I was doing some work typing on the computer. And all of a sudden I felt myself kind of fall back, like I was being taken to an astral travel. And I had to really have a conversation with him because it was not voluntary. The conditions are right and you're bored. You don't want to be here anymore, in this job. So let's go ahead and take you on this astral travel. So I had to really talk to my guides, which brings me to, well, which guide helps you with this and what does that look like? Your teacher guide. Your teacher guide helps you. And you need to have a conversation with your guide as to if this is okay or if this is not okay. If it is not the right conditions for you because you live on the earth plane and your spirit guides don't, you need to set boundaries of if this is okay, if this is not okay. So just have a conversation with your guides. And if you haven't taken my spirit guide masterclass, you'll want to do it. It is just 5 to 15 minutes a day to talk to your guides. That would be a perfect time to tell them. So I will drop the link in the show notes for that free masterclass, but you can also go to messengerspirit.com/class. Now, it is important that you talk to your teacher guide too about, are you interested in doing more or less? So talk to them about your excitement, if there's a specific purpose that you would like to do for astral travel and so forth and so on. But you might be wondering, well, wait a minute, is it safe and how do I do it? Okay. Is it safe? It's safe when you go with your spirit guides. So talk to your spirit guides. Like I was just saying in your meeting, talk to your teacher guide, talk to your protector guide about when you want to go and so forth. And when you involve your spirit guides, it is safe. They will look at the conditions and see, okay, this is right. And we're preparing for it. Sometimes I feel like we micromanage our guides where we'll say, I want to go on an astral travel. And then all of a sudden we're going on one without them. Make sure you're working with your guides. As far as how do you do it? Well, it's pretty, I'd say, different depending on how you want to. If you want to do it consciously, unconsciously, voluntary. Generally speaking, the easiest way to astral travel is just talk to your spirit guides right before you go to bed and say, hey, I'd like to go on an astral travel, or talk to them in the meeting so that when you're sleeping, you go on the astral travel. If you are someone who is a avid meditator and you're wanting to consciously go on an astral travel, that might be a little bit more in depth for a podcast episode, but a basic intention is talk to your spirit guides and just keep working with them. So I won't go into all those details for the conscious part of it because that would be more of a training program. This would be more of, hey, the easiest way, just before I go to sleep, I'd like to go on an astral travel. And how do you know you've been on one? Well, a lot of times your astral visits are going to be very vivid. They're going to feel very real. They are going to produce emotion. Not always, but you can. And when you first wake up, oftentimes you will remember what has happened. Now, I would say that occurs about 80% of the time. And write it down, jot it down. Now, another symptom of astral travel is when you feel like you have had no sleep, but you don't remember waking up at all. Now, of course, if there's an issue with your sleep, please follow up with your health provider. But this can be a symptom of feeling like you've been working all night and you never got that rest. So what I tell my students, if you're feeling like that, make sure you're talking to your teacher guide of, hey, that was a little bit too much. I need to back off on some of this astral travel. Can you please help me with more deep sleep? So that's something that you can talk about with them. As far as How do you know you've been on one? Pay attention to how you're feeling. Do you feel like it was like you were working, like you're tired, you've been going? And also, do you remember things? Sometimes people say, Whitney, I feel like I've been on astral travels, but I don't remember anything. And what I'll say is it's okay. You can ask your spirit guides to help you integrate what you've learned in the astral plane into your brain and your memory. However, you don't really need it. I remember clearly I was in a spirit circle and I consciously astral traveled, and my spirit guides were just saying this is the right time. So it's more of an involuntary, but I was open to it. I was in a spirit circle and I came back. And when I came back, I had no real understanding of what happened other than I learned something about celiac disease. I thought, okay, whatever. And then I started attracting clients with celiac disease. It was in my energy. And then years later, I don't have celiac disease, but I am gluten-free for other reasons. And I had all this knowledge. It was like I had a card in my back pocket. Ba-boom. Oh, this is what I needed to know. It's this moment of, how did I know this? Oh my gosh, I feel like I learned this somewhere, but I can't place it. And it's, hey, you were on astral travel. So the information is stored when you need it. We don't necessarily need to be thinking about all the things that we learn all the time. Okay, let's pull some cards for you on this episode. Now, you know that I love pulling cards, so you can get your deck at messengerspirit.com/order. But Messenger Spirit Oracle deck here. Let's see what Spirit has to share with you here today. And you are listening in March, which means every Sunday in March, we also have some spirit messages for the week. But this is around astral travel in this episode. So what do you need to hear right now? Synchronicity. You are in the right place at the right time. Everything's coming together. So you might start getting these little signs to know that you've been on astral travel. This next card, angels, you're supported. So just know with your astral travel, you're supported. You're going to start kind of putting together the signposts with, oh, I have been on an astral travel. And this is a beautiful card, the healing guide, focusing on your health. So astral traveling and focusing on your healing, focusing on your health, this can give you so much insight. I've had so many stories with friends, students, colleagues, where they were taken to a doctor in spirit and they learned some things about themselves. And then they followed up with their doctor and it was really helpful. So this is more an example of my dog that I had, who's now transitioned into spirit. But I was talking to my husband and I said, I was on this astral travel and I had the word immunoglobulin. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but I said it was something like that. So I had a veterinarian appointment and my dog was having a lot of issues. And I mentioned this to the veterinarian and I said, you know what I do? So I just want to ask you. And she said, absolutely. Yes. What you're getting is real. This is what it is. So I'm saying this within the context of please don't diagnose yourself or diagnose your dog. Ask your doctor or veterinarian when it happens, but it can give you a little bit more insight. And I also have felt like I've received spiritual healing when I've been in the astral plane too. Okay, let me know if you feel like you've been on an astral travel. Message me over on Instagram at Messenger of Spirit. All the links will be in the show notes. Next Wednesday, I will be back with a brand new episode, but don't forget to check out our Sunday mini spirit messages, the energy of the week in March. But until the next episode, here's to staying spiritual and ambitious. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And if you loved it, would you please share it with a friend? I would also love your review and a reminder to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find me at messengerofspirit.com and you can take the 4 Intuitive Languages quiz and find show notes there too. If you want to connect on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, you can find me at Messenger of Spirit. I'll meet you right here next week. Here's to staying spiritual and ambitious.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.